Max the Confessor, thank you for this super chat. Our hypostasis. I'm sorry, I almost read that wrong. Hypostasis in most of these philosophers, just the same concept as primary substance in the Nicene documents. The final creed has letters attached where hypostasis and ousia are interchangeable.
I don't think so. I mean, I think in fact, when you read someone like Plotinus or other people who talk about hypostases, Proclus, I mean, they're really talking about moments in a logical evolutionary sequence in which the divine flows out. And so, and I'm actually reading the Elements of Philosophy now in Proclus, and Proclus goes to great lengths. Of course, this is a bit later, but I think he's still talking about the same kinds of problems. Is that they have a basic problem? They need to get from an unknowable God to an us, and hypostases are just are just those distinct logical moments where inside of the activity of the Godhead or the cosmos, there's a logical distinction that is important in that procession. And so, um, when you think about someone like Plotinus or even Numenius or other people, Stoics, um, they're gonna they're gonna be thinking that the logos, while um, expressed in the universe, is not identical to the universe, not absolutely. And therefore, I think that they would say that, yeah, like the hypostases are logical, distinct moments in the process of emanation, or the coming to be, I guess, of the Trinity, but
Hmm.
they're not the same as ousia. Um, that assumes a radically, you know, uh, materialist worldview. I mean, Stoics would be fine with that, but I think that Plotinus certainly wouldn't be. And so, no, I think that they're not the same as just ousia. Ousia being a much more down the road kind of philosophical concept than uh, than nous or zoe or whatever.
Interesting. How about you, Dr. Sledge? I'm sorry, Dr. Litwa. He's like, I just said that.
I'll grow a beard. Yeah, I'm not an expert in the fourth century actually, but my sense of these fourth century creeds is that these are faith-seeking understanding, in which Christians are molding the philosophical terms to Christian meanings, and so they may not have the same sense as in Plotinus or Numenius as they would in a Christian creed. As far as I understand it, and my understanding is imperfect, Christians are trying to say that God is one in three. So they definitely don't want to say that hypostasis and ousia are the same. They want to say that there's, in their language, tres hypostases. There's three hypostases, and that there's mia ousia, that there's one substance to the Godhead. So the God, this is the way that they can say God is one in three. They can, you know, basically throw out mathematics in a sense by saying one equals three, by using these two technical terms from philosophy uh, that are fairly similar in meaning but different enough in nuance so that they can say that there is both a one essence of deity, as it's sometimes translated, and three hypostases, three underlying things. And really, Uh, I'm not sure if that does make philosophical sense because it's really just faith speaking in the language, trying to sound uh, philosophic. And I have every reason to believe that many fourth century Orthodox theologians,
Hmm.
that this managed to make sense to them. But whether it would make sense to a contemporary Platonist, uh, I don't know. And I must say that I'm uh, quite anti creedal myself because these are the creeds that mowed over and destroyed so much other Christian thought by the force of exclusion. So
Wow.
these are not formulations that I celebrate. These are formulations that mean that other Christians have to die who don't believe this sort of stuff.
Wow. That was a really good answer. Really good question. Thank you for staying for another one, Dr.
Yeah, but I unfortunately, I do
Yeah.
have to sign off. I
Oh, I
wish
understand.
all of you the best. My thanks to Neil and Jason, and warm wishes again to Dr. Sledge, and you're in good hands. So
Yeah, yeah,
everyone,
yeah.
take care and be well.
Choose
Thank you,
Dr.
Dr. Lidwell.
Lidwell. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you. Don't worry about my signal thing. I'll fix it in a second. I'm not that. My face is not that important right now. So, it's okay. Paul Kickling, thank you for another one. I appreciate it so much, so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you've read Dune, Paul wields the Logos as a tool of God, which is why Jesus was able to foresee everything, for he controls when he speaks. More of a comment than a question, but if anyone wants to respond to that, feel free.
I mean, I think also Paul Atreides, I mean, he sees it, but he doesn't want to. And it's horrible of what's about to happen, the death of billions of people. But I don't think he controls when he speaks. I think that's what's really interesting about Dune, is that that Paul Atreides is very unlike Jesus. That Jesus, at some level, could control everything and doesn't, and Paul, at some level, can't control what's about to happen and wishes he could. And I think that's a real important distinction between Paul Atreides as Muad'Dib, the Mahdi, and Jesus as the Messiah. Yeah, I don't think that. I think they're very different in that way.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting comment, by the way. So thank you for that, Paul. Captain Dadpool, my buddy, my friend. He's on TikTok and he's on YouTube. Go and find him on both platforms. Thank you, Captain Dadpool. Now it's just Dr. Sledge.
Yeah.
Dr. Sledge, what is your thoughts on Job 28 stating that God sought out wisdom and acquired it?
Yeah, so this is a strange section of Job that I think reveals some pretty early stuff about Yahweh, right? That Yahweh is not sort of the God of the theologians of the 4th century or the Middle Ages, where God already knows everything. That Yahweh is a being kind of, work in process. And that is to say, that Yahweh wants to brag about stuff. I mean, people forget that the last sections of Job are mostly Yahweh bragging about the fact that he beat up a sea monster, which I always like that. And I love those sections of Yahweh. I beat up a sea monster. Who are you to question me? And so I think that, Yahweh's trying to Yahweh's throwing down don't throw down trumps and spades, and so I got knowledge, right? And it's just not just Chokmah, but God really acquired all knowledge. God really knows how everything works. So does it imply that God didn't know stuff? Sure. Because you're not dealing with a medieval conception of God as an omniscient being. You're dealing with a more Israelite conception of a God that's sort of like I don't know, my dad can beat up your dad, God. My dad knows more about your dad.
Yeah.
So I think that's the kind of God we're dealing with. You may not like that, but can you beat up a sea monster?
Right. Yeah, that is a good point. That's a good question, though. I really appreciate that, Captain Deadpool. And by the way, I'm going on your channel probably next week, so everyone look out for that. I will post that to the community tab when I get a chance, and yeah, that'll be fun. Thank you, Captain Deadpool.
Also, Heathen Queen in the chat. I really appreciate her content as well.
I didn't even see her. I'm looking at all the super chats. There she is.
Yeah, she's in the chat. I really appreciate it. I just want to say I really appreciate your content, and I really like, and I really enjoy having really smart, powerful women in this milieu, like Dr. Angela Puka and other women who are just doing really, really amazing content. So thank you for your content.
I second that, and her and Puka have it on my channel, and anytime I definitely love having them on and getting their perspective on stuff. And by the way, Lord Snappy says, Dr. Sledge, you are a blessing, which is a fact. That's an absolute fact. Dude. There's no way you can deny that. Another one is from Angelo Nacios. Thank you, Angelo, for the super chat. Could you discuss how the difference in how people perceive the logos over centuries? How this is a good. We're going deep in this logos tonight.
Yeah,
How does
yeah,
the
we
logo
need like a
compare between Plato, Proclus, and Plotinus, for example, if there are differences? I know that's a long one, but if
it's
you could just whatever you want to
it's a
say. on
huge one. It's a huge one. I guess there's no way to answer this question like without a dissertation, without like a
Yeah.
3-volume dissertation.
Good question, though. Good question.
Yeah, it's great. I think the big thing right about the logos is the transition of the logos from so I'll take Plotinus for instance. For Plotinus, nous does all the work. Logos is not really a big deal. Logos is sort of a part of nous. And I think what you see really is that it's all about how to put this.